This is what I would wear if something were to happen on the outside. Alien invasion, things from the underground, zombies, because we'll be talking about all of them. So this would be my outfit in case something were to break out on the outside and I needed to go and fight it. Got my... It's too hot. Okay. Hello and welcome to me screaming into the void. I'm super excited today because we'll be talking about a subject that I'm very excited about, in case you didn't notice. And yes, I would be wearing sweatpants in case I needed to fight some bigger force, okay? Can you imagine, like, zombie outbreak? Well, I might be the first one to die. Let's be completely honest. I might be the first one to die in a zombie outbreak. In case you haven't read the title, which I'm sure you have, today's list of movies is based on Clown in a... My cat is scratching the door again. Please. Back at it. Hi. So, as I was saying before, today's list of movies is based on Adam Cesare's Clown in a Cornfield tagline, which is "The kids are not all right." And I love it. And I just finished the book and it's fantastic. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Such a good slasher. Absolute twists and turns. And he knows how to describe scenes so well that you're in the midst of it. And I'm allowed to talk about this too, and I feel like it's kind of low-key part of the list because it's also about kids versus another force. I'm not going to say which one. Now, I've had to set a certain amount of boundaries because I was noticing that every time I finished a list, I wanted to add something more, or I wanted to... The list just kept getting bigger. And since I don't want this video to be 3 hours long, RIP my editor, in case the list is 3 hours long, it won't. I promise you it won't. I had to set a couple of rules, okay? And the rules are: no college kids, no central love stories, no franchises, no psycho kids, no vampires, no Halloween-themed movies. You also know why. You also know why no vampires. I'm sorry, we will not be talking about the 80s vampire. Sorry, I think I need to sneeze. This is the first part 1 of a list. We can make a part 2. You can comment below how mad you are that certain movies were not included. I'm talking the 80s. Sorry for those who like the classics. Obviously, all these movies are based on classics also and inspired by the 80s. I am aware. I know that Goonies exists. Don't worry. The 80s just aren't taking place in this list, okay? There will always be a moment where kids will team up against evil or an evil force or aliens or anything and everything that might be attacking them. Most of these movies, I think only one of them isn't like that, are over the top. So if you do not like over the top movies that are horror or horror adjacent and very splattery and very in your face and colorful and absolute madness and don't always take themselves so seriously, this is not the video for you. Unless you want to know which movies not to watch, then this is the video for you. It's in no particular-ish order. I did kind of bunch my favorites in the end. Not even, because it's 8 movies and they are all a bit my favorites. But I am biased and I have certain movies that absolutely took my heart. And we will start with a light one, in my opinion, which is Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Having rewatched this movie now, I must say I had a fun time, but it is also blatantly horny. It's from 2015. It's a 2015 zombie comedy. My words are failing me today again, and I'm singing again. So it's directed by Christopher Landon. He directed Happy Death Day, Burning Palms, and Freaky. If you want me to make a video about movies that most people liked and I didn't, we can talk about that list and I will make one. But as you might know, and we have already said before, I do not like Freaky. Didn't like it. I'm not sorry for that. So this movie stars Ty Sheridan, Sarah DeMont, Blake Anderson, and David Koechner. I think that's how it's pronounced. Blake Anderson from Workaholics, you know. David Koechner seems to be in every funny movie as a side hustle character. In this movie, he plays a camp counselor because this movie is basically, as it is already in the title, about 3 Boy Scouts who are fighting zombies. And the opening scene sets the tone for the entire movie. So, you have literally Blake Anderson just cleaning in a facility, shaking it out. And I had a lot of fun watching that scene. And at some point, he lands with his hands in a zombie corpse. How? That's for you to figure out, because this list is going to be spoiler-free. I will give you some spoilers, but they are not going to be pertinent to the story itself. They are just going to be little side notes. So these 3 Boy Scouts who are lifelong friends, they're like borderline teenagers almost. I know they're definite teenagers because the horniness is just on another level. So they team up with a cocktail waitress and fight the zombie invasion, basically. And that's about it. And they have to put in their scouting skills. And it's the type of movie that moves from one place to another. And you know how there's these movies that you go to this place, then this happens. Then you go to that place and that happens and they have to do this thing. And it just keeps moving around. These movies are entertaining, but there's so many of them and it's just so formulaic that I understand that some people can get bored. I had my fun because it had a lot of very stupid moments. Almost all the effects were practical. I counted 33 people in the makeup department, which when you see the movie, the appreciation for that is on my end was very high. And Tony Gardner was supervising them. My favorite parts are the zombified cat attack. When you see it, you will know. It's so dumb, so well made. The cats were animatronic. I'm gonna leave it at that. The singing of Hit Me Baby One More Time by Britney Spears to a zombie.
Oh, baby, baby.
Also,
how was I
absolutely love that scene. Yeah, so if you like these kind of things, I think you will enjoy this movie. The second movie we're going to talk about used to be one of my favorites. It's Turbo Kid. And I say used to because allegedly I didn't find much information on this. There were 3 articles I read, and that's it. I even looked in the Canadian French press, and I couldn't find much about it. But in October of 2024, one of the directors who directed the movie, there is 3 of them, Simard, was accused of some very bad things regarding a 9 and an 11-year-old. And I'm going to leave that at that. And that is why this movie has a bitter aftertaste for me. And I thought you should know because I stumbled upon it in my research and I was quite disappointed, to say the least. It is still on this list because it is 3 directors and the other 2 haven't yet mentioned anything, also because I think the case is ongoing. And I'm pretty sure that I hope that they didn't know about it. And that's why this movie is still in it. I do still think this movie was really nice and I enjoyed a lot of it because there was a lot of heart and soul put into it. And it's about this comic book fan who's a teenager, the kid, who's played by Monroe Chambers, who becomes a superhero in an alternate universe of the 1997s, where he lives in a post-apocalyptic Earth where water is scarce. And the tyrannical overlord Zeus, who's played by Michael Ironside, makes water out of blood. It gets into shenanigans, okay? And I love the fact that while they were filming, there was rain showers happening, which was not planned. So they changed the story to the rain being acid and making the rain puddles green in post-production, which I liked. It is highly influenced by 70s and 80s movies. You will see it throughout. It's very gory. And I love the fact that the bad guys are riding BMX bikes. And of course, we have the heart, the diamond in the middle, that is Apple, played by Laurence LeBeouf. She plays her so well. And she gets kidnapped by these overlord goons right after she gets to know the kid who was in his routine and got disturbed by this routine by her. And she gets kidnapped and he needs to save her. So that's the very short gist of it. There's just certain scenes that just stick out. I absolutely adore the pursuit scenes in the BMX bikes because obviously it makes sense. There is no gas anymore. Cars don't work. So what are you going to use? BMX bikes. I love the Apple boomstick part where she gets... Sorry, I said boomstick. It's her gnome stick, but it was inspired by Evil Dead, the boomstick. This is my boomstick. And she says, this is my gnome stick, because she makes a stick with the gnome tied on top. She's just a character, okay? I feel like the movie works because she just drives the whole thing. So that was Turbo Kid. We are going to move on quickly to Slaughterhouse Rules. Now, Slaughterhouse Rules. I think some people are mad at this movie. I don't understand why. I've heard reviews that, are you trying to be Edgar Wright with the cuts and everything? Listen, if you're one of those people, listen very closely. You know who produced this movie? Stolen Pictures. You know who owns and has created Stolen Pictures? Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. You know what they worked on with Edgar Wright? Yeah, the Cornetto trilogy. Okay? So don't get mad at this movie. It's highly influenced by them. Of course it is. But I've seen now a lot of British movies. And many of them have this kind of style. I think they're all inspiring each other. They're riffing off each other, okay? Guy Ritchie also has a certain cut that has influenced people. But I think it's more of a British comedy kind of a thing that they have adapted. It's well shot. Wallace goes into this illustrious boarding school that is mostly full of snobs. And after enrolling, there is a fracking site right beside the school grounds. And you know that the school is most probably funded by this fracking site. And it causes a mysterious sinkhole to appear. And there is things that will be coming out of that sinkhole. The cast features Asa Butterfield, Finn Cole, Hermione Cornfield, Michael Sheen, Nick Frost, Simon Pegg, and Margot Robbie. Now that you know the cast, so much fun. And you know the background, also so much fun. These kids need to fight against whatever comes out of the sinkhole. And again, there is a lot of blood, there is a lot of gore, there is a lot of body parts flying around. It's a bloody good time. I love the banter mixed in with the bloodbath. There is even a toga party. When you see that scene, you will know. And I love the fact that Simon Pegg, there's this one scene where he grammatically corrects a teen and says, do know? Do know? It's I don't know. For heaven's sake, enunciate. After he got attacked by the thing that comes out of the hole. By the way, I love the end credits. So much love was put into them too. Highly entertaining, highly recommend if you haven't seen this movie yet. And if you have and you're mad at me for mentioning this movie, feel free to use the comment space below. Next movie I'm going to mention is As the Gods Will. I think, again, people are going to be mad because I read reviews about this where the people were like, Takashi Miike, this is not one of your good ones. Because Takashi Miike is the one who directed this movie, and he's also the one who directed Ichi the Killer and Audition. And if you see this movie with those movies in mind, I understand why you're mad. However, if you see this movie, just separate it from the two and just have fun with it, you will have a lot of fun with that. And again, lots of blood and gore. It stars, I hope I will not be butchering the names. Please don't hate me if I do. Sota Fukushi, Ryunosuke Kamiki, and Miyoyuki. And it's not Takashi Miike's usual vibe, but I don't believe it's a bad thing because it's also based on a manga series. And
a few moments later,
it's his second movie, I think, that he did, where it's starring teenagers at school who are being attacked by higher forces. The other one is Lesson of Evil. I haven't watched that one, so if you have, and I should watch it, I will watch it at some point anyway. Maybe I'll put it in my part 2, who knows. And the structure of this movie mimics a video game. So the students ascend a level every time that they survive one of the games. Now, what is this movie about? It's about these students who are at high school and suddenly in their classroom, a Daruma doll just appears and they have to play this game of red light, green light. Only the problem is if you lose, your head bursts into bloody marbles. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And it's so well filmed. And okay, maybe I should also preface by saying this movie is heavily CGI'd, like heavily. But again, I don't think, and it's the only one in this list that is heavily CGI'd. Every other movie has a lot of practical effects and are very proud of it. But again, I think in this case, it doesn't matter because Takashi Miike just went nuts with this one. He took it, went with it, ran with it, inserted. I haven't read the manga, so if you have and you have watched the movie and you have a different perspective on this, let me know. I personally, who haven't read the manga, loved it. And the CGI just helped the director to really up the ante to a maximum. He just went completely ballistic with it. And I loved all of it because it was so over the top that you're just in for the ride, okay? So they have to play this red light, green light, and the only way that they can win it is by clicking the button at the end of the Daruma doll's head, which is very difficult because I love the concept itself was so good. I liked the games. I liked the bloodiness of it. I liked the relentlessness of it. I liked also that you had this metaphysical element to it because you don't know who put these games into it. And you also realize at some point that it's an international phenomena that is happening. And I just like that these kids are just put into it and nobody has an idea. And they just all feel like, why do we have to do this? We didn't ask for this. I know you didn't ask for this. And I feel very bad. But it's just this higher power that is having fun with them and just playing a cat and mouse game. And again, it's just so over the top. I love it. I love it. I love it. I also liked that Takashi Mike said in an interview that people who are used to his movies might feel like something is missing in this movie. But he also said that it's part of his job as a director to make films for a wider audience, even children. And if you look at the movie, I don't know. I'm not sure that children should be kept in mind for this one. But yeah, so again, you have children, but this time facing like these godlike entities who are playing games with them. Next movie. Ooh, this movie has divided the internet. I feel like you either hate it or you absolutely love it. There is nothing in between. Detention, 2011. It's a black comedy slasher film, okay? And it's directed by Joseph Kahn. Fun fact, he has funded the entire movie. That's how much he wanted to make this movie. It stars the cast. It stars Josh Hutcherson, Shanley Caswell, Spencer Locke, and Dane Cook. Now, I'm not a fan of Dane Cook, but he works in this movie because he plays the principal who's highly annoying and just highly annoying. Again, I already mentioned before that some of these movies are going to be over the top, but I feel like out of all the movies in this list, this movie takes the cake. Let me explain. Listen. This movie is not normal. And if you are not ready for an absolute splatterfest with the most erratic editing and title cards, and it's very loud. This movie is very loud in every single aspect. And while you watch it, I think for many people, nothing will make sense. However, if you go with it and just let this movie take you where it wants, you will have a lot of fun with it, okay? And we have such a beautiful slasher moment in the first 4 minutes by a character that is highly annoying. And already there, that already sets the entire tone for the movie. What is this movie about? I'm sure you're wondering. So this movie is about a copycat killer who names herself, we don't know, who copycats themselves after a movie villain, Cinderella. Cinderella. I love this fake movie. Please, Sir Mr. Joseph Kahn, please make a Cinderella movie. I'm begging you. I will pay Kickstarter money for it. I don't have much money, but I will pay Kickstarter money for that. Okay? Cinderella movie itself, which I was going to watch during the whole thing, it's absolutely amazing. And it's about, oh my God, even the high school's name, Grizzly Lake. So there is a grizzly bear taxidermy right in the middle of the school. And I love that. And the grizzly bear itself also has a lore. This is the other fun part of this movie, okay? So now we know Cinderella, slasher, copycat, walks around the school grounds and is killing off kids. That's the movie. And a group of these high school kids have to fight the villain while in detention. Now, some people were mad that the detention part only happened like, I think 40 or 50 minutes into the movie. I didn't care because the whole other part of this movie is set up and every character has an outrageous backstory. And when I say outrageous, I'm talking half-fly jock. I'm talking the guy in the hoodie who's been in detention since 1992. I will not say more. Listen, I don't want to spoil it all, but there is some very weird backstories where you're just like, what the heck? Even the grizzly bear has a backstory. The grizzly bear has a backstory. This movie is all sorts of genres just mashed up into this story of coming of age. It's an absolute celebration of horror, okay? And it's going to overload all your senses in the best way possible. In the end, it's also a very heartwarming story because you have these teenagers really already having to figure themselves out and prom is approaching, and then they have to fight off a serial killer. Watch it. Next movie, Get Duked. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, are you in for a treat. I love this movie so much. So you see, the more I go down on this list, the more happy I get. We started off very, demure with Scout's Guide, and we are just getting into so much fun. Get Duked is a 2019 British black comedy, written and directed by Ninian Duff, and it's his feature directorial debut. And sir, if this is your first movie, I don't even want to know how hopefully good your next movie is going to be, because there is some directors out there who had first movies that were really good and then the rest were doozies, and you were wondering why they're still making movies. But it's fine. People go into the movies to watch that movie. So yeah, here we are. So, what is this movie about? It's about these 3 city kids, actually it's 4, who go to the Scottish Highlands for an orienteering program. And they get more than they bargained for. They bump into creepy locals. They bump into a murder. They bump into psychedelic drugs. And they become targets of something that hunts them down, and they need to fight for survival. It's a very simple premise, but it works so well. And I love the characters, okay? We have Ian, who's played by Samuel Bottomley, who's the nerd and is just there to make friends. His parents literally sent him to this orienteering program for, I'm guessing it's troubled teens. But as you hear their backstories, you notice some of them are a little troubled and caused some fires and stuff. But I feel most badly for Ian, who literally is just there getting to make friends. And then you have these other 3 hoodlums. You have DJ Beetroot. Beat, B-E-A-T, Root, played by Viraj Juneja. I'm sorry for butchering your name. You played that role so well. And I feel like he's just traipsing through the Highlands in an entirely white outfit from the hat to the shoes. Sir, what are you doing on the Highlands? Traipsing through the dirt with your shoes. It creates such good, stupid comedy. It's just, so good. And he is trying to sell his CD at every chance he gets. And sticking stickers everywhere. It's so good. And then you have Duncan, who's played by Louis Gribbon, who's pretty much up for anything. And then you have Dean, who's played by Ryan Gordon, who thinks he's a MacGyver. I think I might be mistaking the last 2 characters and I got them mixed up. So if that's the case, then Duncan is the one who's MacGyver and Dean is the one who... Sorry, listen, I'm sorry that I get sometimes the characters mixed up. That's just how my brain sometimes works. You even have Jonathan Aris, who plays the counselor, and he plays the counselor so well. He's like just trying his best, okay? He's wearing these glasses, he's driving the bus, he's telling the boys where to go and traipse around the highlands and where they need to meet up, and even gives them a card and is like, listen, you have to fulfill this and this and this and this task, and if you do so, then you're good. And we have Eddie Izzard playing a duke. And again, you have these moments where these kids have to fight back against whatever is hunting them, whoever is hunting them, and the kills are so spontaneous. Listen, the kills. I've never been so surprised by kills as I have been in this movie. They just happen so suddenly that you're like, oh, that happened. There is an actual Duke of Edinburgh award scheme that promotes self-improvements to the youth by making them go hiking and doing sports. And the director, Ninian Duff, actually took part in one while in school. He did not achieve gold, but he took part in one. So I love it. Listen, it's always best to write what you know. And he took that and he ran with it. And some of my favorite parts are this mix of the highlands, being out in the highlands. I mean, it's just grass. I was about to say woods, but there's no woods. It's just grass. There is this killer track of Run Them Jewels while they are imbibing drugs that they found on the floor. Yes. Don't ask. And this scene is just so good. Paired with that track from Run Them Jewels makes this entire experience so much more fun. And yes, DJ Beetroot will be riffing off of some beats. And I also had fun with that scene, okay? So if you're into that kind of stuff, watch this movie. I was highly entertained. Next movie, Psycho Goreman. Yes, Psycho Goreman. Oh my goodness. It's a Canadian, I have to read off, science fiction, fantasy, action, horror, comedy, directed by Steven Kostanski. And it's so good. One of the main reasons why I like this movie so much is the absolute love and adoration for the creature design, the character design, the costumes. It's a lot of time and effort was put into all of that. You have Nita, Jose, Hannah, and Owen Muir, who play siblings, who unwittingly revive an ancient alien overlord, played by Matt Ninabber and voiced by Stephen Vlahos. And they resurrect him, and this girl has this jewel that she can control this overlord with. Now, the problem with the resurrection of this overlord is that the intergalactic friends and enemies that he has have become aware of the fact that he's traipsing around Earth and are bound to Earth to obviously destroy him. There's this battle for the fate of the galaxy. And this overlord, who already millions of years ago tried to destroy the universe, is now controlled by a little girl. And listen, some people might find Nita, Jose, Hannah annoying, but it works so well for this movie because there is just a certain thing about a little girl controlling a massive, huge galactic overlord that it just makes me happy, okay? And yes, her brother is also there. So again, you have these kids who, with the help of this overlord, try and save the fate of the galaxy. There is a lot of blood and gore and special effects, and it's just brilliant. Listen, blood is flowing, body parts are flowing. There is this creature design of this guy who was Alistair, who was turned into a massive brain blob, which is an obvious hail to certain other movies that were made. And it's just so cute to look at because you just have this massive little brain with tentacles that is just scurrying around. Oh, it made me very happy. And yes, there's also a part where a child gets blown into bits, thanks to Nina. and it's just this thing of this Orlar just having to go according to the whims of this little girl that just make this movie work. She named, by the way, Psycho Goreman, PG for short. See what they did there with the PG? Huge, massive, absolute to the SFX team that are Alan Cook, Todd Masters, Nicole Rodriguez, and Jen Tate. You guys did a lot of work. Seriously, wow. I was impressed. I was really very impressed. And I love the whole sweet undertone. I love when movies have the sweet undertone, but then have a lot of blood, guts, and gore just flowing throughout it, like a river of it just bursting from this movie's scenes. It's just a wonderful juxtaposition. And not all the movies that I'm mentioning in this list, but many of the movies I've mentioned in this list have this. And it's one of my favorite horror genres. I cannot tell you. It's one of my favorite horror genres. I also like very dark and twisted stuff. I just finished watching one that is called Into the Darkness. And holy crap. Descent into Darkness. It takes a while, but when it gets going, I was not okay. Some of my favorite scenes in this movie are definitely the brain that's waddling away into a field of grass, the dad that's getting screamed at on the toilet, and basically just Psycho Goreman's backstory, which was so well flashbacked. Come on, SFX team. I'm so happy. It was so good. Okay. And yes, I know listen, none of these movies are perfect. None of them are. But in most of these movies, there was a lot of love put into them, okay? And the last movie I'm going to mention is Attack the Block. Because if anything says the kids are not all right and kids have to face a bigger force that is attacking them, it's Attack the Block. Directed by Joe Cornish. And it's a British science fiction horror comedy. And the film cast consists of Jodie Whittaker, John Boyega, Alex Ismail, Franz Rameh, Leon Jones, Simon Howard, Luke Treadway, Jermaine Hunter, and Nick Frost. Yes, our second Nick Frost movie. It starts with Sam, who's played by Jodie Whittaker, who gets off her nursing shift and is mugged on her way back home by the local boys, who are led by Moses, who's played by John Boyega. But the mugging gets interrupted by when an object strikes a nearby car and she flees. And the object that was in the nearby car is an alien. And there is an alien invasion happening. Not yet. Well, the problem is that Moses kind of kills that alien, and that kind of causes more aliens that are bigger, hairier, and scarier to come to Earth and get it back. What makes this movie special? This movie is very much, people from the hood versus aliens. And I love that. And you are very much on John Boyega and the kids' side. There is a lot of banter happening. There is these two little kids. They're absolutely fantastic. And
what if it kills us?
They called the aliens big alien gorilla wolf mother. And the creature design is excellent. I think there were two men who had to operate this gorilla-like suit with animatronic jaws. And the creature design is absolutely fantastic because you have these aliens. They're basically these very spiky, furry, pitch black. Most of it is done with practical effects, but in the grading and the adding of effects onto the creatures, they made it like this, that it almost felt like a black hole that was sucking you in. And then they don't have eyes and they have these bioluminescent jaws. That means when they open their mouths, you just have, oh, it's so good. So good. And they react by echolocation, like bats, okay? And the screeches that come out of their mouths is a mix. Sorry, I'm laughing because it's so much fun and they mixed it so well. It's a mix between dolphin sonar sounds, grunts and snarls of dozens of animals, and screams of a woman. And it works so well. And you have these kids who are armed with nunchucks and swords. And then you have this guy, and he just wants to go and buy some devil's lettuce and gets involved in this whole mishmash of it all. The nurse who was getting back home and got mugged by them has to kind of band together with them because otherwise survival equals zero if she's all alone. And I also like the fact that they start becoming friendly and both sides kind of become one to face the evil. Yes, it actively calls for sympathy from the audience towards the criminals from the hood, who are just teenagers, by the way. They're boys, they're children. It is a social commentary. And if you're not for that, click off the video right now. Go, click it off. Go, bye.
Okay, bye.
And Joe Cornish is also grew up in those parts and in an apartment complex. And he actually interviewed a lot of kids from those parts. And he showed pictures of these alien creatures to a girl and asked her, what do you think of this creature if you found it? And she said, I wouldn't touch it. I don't want to get chlamydia. And that sentence went into the movie. Funnily enough, he was inspired by Shyamalan's Signs. And he wondered what would happen if one of those aliens landed in London. Favorite parts, too many to count. The entire movie is my favorite part, okay? I love the banter. I love the two kids who riff off each other so well. I appreciated this movie a lot. This was my entire list, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching. Let me know which movies you watched. Let me know if and when you do watch the movies, how you like them, or any and all movies that you haven't watched yet. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, this is me signing off from the void. Bye.